everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of the Titletown Sports Podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Melissa Burns.
What's going on, Burnsy? I'm Craig Stanton. Thanks for listening, everybody. Welcome. Episode 68 of the program.
Big one.
The big 6-8.
Yeah. Well, this week, we're going to talk about some interesting developments in Patriots Nation. I'm going to call it that. And just get caught up a little bit about what's going on around town.
Yeah, I teased a Bruins take from last week that I thought we might be able to get to this week. But yeah, there's some Florida man type shit that bumped that to the back burner for another week. So it's another big league tease for you Titletown listeners who are interested in my Bruins hot takery.
Yeah. All right.
But anyways, that's a reasonable place as any to get started catching up around town. Let's start with the hockey team, shall we?
Okay.
So the Bruins, they wrapped up their road trip, their big, long, mostly West Coast road trip this week, and they did pretty goddamn well. They beat LA, they beat San Jose, and they beat Vegas, all obviously on the road. They finally dropped the last game with a shootout loss to the St. Louis Blues on Saturday afternoon. That ended their 7-game win streak, but an impressive 13-game point streak is still very much alive. Yes. Also, we are recording on Monday. It's about 9:53. Holy smokes. And the NHL trade deadline was today, Monday, at 3 p.m. Yeah. And the Bruins were pretty active. And actually, earlier in the week, they acquired a big 6'3" Weymouth, Mass native right winger Charlie Coyle from the Minnesota Wild in exchange for Ryan Donato. And then today, Monday, right around the deadline, they acquired Marcus Johansson from the New Jersey Devils, who's also a winger. I think he's a left wing, for a, I don't know what year, but future second round and fourth round pick. Bruins fans may remember Marcus Johansson was the poor bastard on the Devils that got freaking elbowed in the dome last year by Brad Marchand, who subsequently got suspended 5 games for that hit. So a bit of an awkward situation there, I would imagine, in the locker room between Marcus Johansson and Brad Marchand. And the Bruins begin a 6-game homestand this week with games against San Jose, New Jersey, and on Thursday night, the NHL's best, the Tampa Bay Lightning, come to town.
Yeah, it'll be interesting how they stack up against the Lightning with this kind of like new look team.
Yeah, I mean, I'm overall pretty happy with what they did at the deadline. We'll get into this a little bit more later, but yeah, I mean, they upgraded, I would say. I mean, it wasn't nothing, earth-shattering, nothing team-altering, but I think they got a little bit better and a little bit bigger, and I think that's cool.
Yeah, they got a little more, I think, aggressive on the second and third line in particular.
Yeah.
Which was important, especially once Pasternak comes back. That'll be important for them.
For sure.
So. Let's switch to the Celtics. Again, the Celtics just catching the luck of the Irish with the fact that the Patriots keep making news for them.
Yeah, they're getting a lot of cover, that's for sure.
They sure are. They are coming off their midseason All-Star break and have not been good so far. Their first game back was a tough one against the team with the best record in the NBA, the Milwaukee Bucks. It ended up coming down to a last second possession where Kyrie Irving put up the last shot and it didn't go in. They lost by a point, 98-97. They then went to play Chicago, who is the 4th worst team in the league.
Woof.
And they somehow ended up losing handily, 126-116. The next week is going to be a tough challenge for them. They're going to take on Toronto, Portland, Washington, Houston, and Golden State. All of you who are positioned to hit the playoffs except for Washington. So this could be a rough stretch for the Celtics if they can't turn it around.
Yeah,
this second half of the season here.
For sure. I mean, this is not a good time to be hitting a rough patch. And I mean, this Celtic season has been basically a series of rough patches strung together by a series of win streaks.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, like, sure, you lose by a point on the road in Milwaukee, comes down to the final possession. What are you going to do? But the following night, I mean, they got thoroughly blasted by the Chicago Bulls. Like, that's bad. Like, that was a fucking ugly loss. Ugh. And yeah, like you said, now they're playing a string of good teams all week. The final of that game, that Golden State game is the last of them, and that's next Tuesday. So a little bit over a week from right now. But And that's at
Sure.
Golden State, by the way. So yeah, I mean, hopefully they can come out of this little stretch like, what are you hoping for here? 500? I don't know. Like, my expectations are
I'll
not
take
high.
it. No. Yeah, and I think you got to beat the bad teams. That's one thing that we always say. Like, you can't control your own schedule. You got to beat the teams you're supposed to beat. And to get, to lose to Chicago by 10 when that should have been kind of a layup of a game is just not a good look, especially when you've just had all that time off. And like, okay, yeah, I'm with you. Like, you played a close one against the Bucks. They're a good team, but you can't then turn around and have such a shitty game against a, not even close to
shitty opponent.
team.
Yeah, and it's one thing
Right.
for you and I to call it a layup game, but like it just seems like the Celtics themselves are approaching it like it's a layup game, and like
Right.
although they were basically fully healthy, like it didn't seem like they really showed up. Like, do they think that everyone's just going to bow down because they're like the high flying Celtics and not play? Like, if there's been anything we've learned this season, it's that teams are not afraid of them at all. They
Right.
Every team in the NBA goes into games against the Celtics and believes that they can win, and they're right.
Yeah, they're not, yeah, of course they do. They have. They've been winning. Why wouldn't they keep winning?
So, anyways, that's the Celtics.
Whatever.
The Red Sox did some stuff this week. They kicked off their slate of games in the Grapefruit League. Jeez. At Fenway
I'm glad we're both
South
tongue-tied.
down in Fort Myers, Florida this week, so that's fun. I'm not going to tell you who they played and what the score was and whether they won or lost because I don't want to set the precedent that we're going to do that for spring training games. So just know that they played and that games are happening.
They're there.
Really nothing much to report from Red Sox world this week, but in the greater universe of baseball, one of the two big name free agents, Manny Machado, this week signed a freaking massive $300 million deal with the San Diego Padres, of all teams. Meanwhile, Bryce Harper, who has apparently been close to a deal, quote unquote, close to a deal with the Philadelphia Phillies for like what feels like a month, still remains unsigned. So big deal for Machado money wise. Sort of sucks that it's the Padres. Like, what a snoozer of a team. And then the last piece of news was former Red Sox closer Craig Kimbrell. It was reported by The Athletic this week that he would be willing to sit out the year if he doesn't get the money he's looking for in free agency. The money, I actually forget what the number is, but I do remember that he wants to be the highest paid closer in the history of the game. So apparently if that does not come true for Craig Kimbrell, he's going to be sitting out, which is a choice.
Turning our attention to the Patriots.
Yeah, let's.
It was a big week for the New England Patriots organization. Not in a good way. Certainly not in a good way.
Nope.
I guess two things happened. Devin McCourty broke news that he will officially be coming back next year.
Oh, right. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. And then the other thing that happened is that Patriots owner Robert Kraft was charged with first-degree solicitation of a prostitute in Jupiter, Florida.
Oh.
Yikes.
Oh, hurts to say it out loud.
So we're going to talk more about that because it's basically the biggest news coming out of Boston this week. Like, it's all anyone's talking about. It's all over the place. It's just another embarrassment for those Patriots organization that seems to not be able to get out of its own damn way.
Dude, like, I mean, I guess this is like part of the problem with, years and years and 2 decades of sustained success. Like, it's like it creates a bigger target. But and I don't mean like they're being targeted, but like by which I mean like there's only a couple years that anybody gives a shit about what you do in like American popular culture. You know what I mean? Like, for the small period of time that any given person is like famous, really famous. If something fucked up happens in that window of time, then like that's bad for that person or those people. And like you don't usually see, especially athletes who or people involved with sports, obviously Belichick and Kraft aren't athletes, but you know what I mean, who like have 20 years of sustained, super limelight, top of their game for 2 fucking decades. So it's just like, I guess this is just an occupational hazard of doing that. Like, let's say the Patriots dynasty ended, quote unquote. They stopped going to Super Bowls and Tom Brady retired, in 2008 or something. Fast forward 10 years, maybe former owner of the Patriots, Robert Kraft, gets, arrested for prostitution or something. Like, that's obviously a big story, but it's not like driving the news on fucking CNN and Fox and beyond, like full court press for an entire weekend. You know what I mean? Like, it would obviously be newsworthy and noteworthy, but like just the fact that like, oh man, Robert Kraft was just so present like for the last month or so, obviously winning the Super Bowl, and just him as his own guy making appearances at the Lakers games in Boston and in Philly and doing like various social justice work. And like he's just been like big time in the public eye, specifically in the last like 30 days or so. So just a brutal time for this to all come down for him.
Yeah, I mean, you want some highlights and some quick facts of what went down just to kind of set the scene?
Yeah, I do think some scene setting would be good because I think obviously everybody's generally aware that like there was like a prostitution thing that happened. But like, yeah, let's just like ground ourselves a little bit in like the actual realities of what happened, and then we'll go from there.
So this is from ESPN.com. They say that New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft visited a Florida massage parlor for sex acts on the morning of the AFC Championship game, which he attended in Kansas City later that day. He arrived at the beautiful Orchids of Asia Day Spa in a chauffeured 2015 blue Bentley at 11 a.m. on January 20th. Cutting it close.
Not to draw any attention to yourself or anything.
Yeah. He was videotaped receiving oral and manual sex from a woman at the spa. And then he gave her a $100 bill and another bill before leaving at 11:15. She's efficient, that girl.
Quick trip.
Yeah. The AFC Championship game later that night kicked off at 6:40 in Kansas City, and Kraft was in attendance, as we know. The 77-year-old Kraft was also seen soliciting prostitution on video surveillance just 17 hours earlier on January 19th. And he's officially been charged with 2 misdemeanor counts of first-degree solicitation, the Palm Beach State Attorney announced Monday. Court date set for 8:30 a.m. on April 24th. It's a low-level arrest warrant issued out in his name, which basically gets you like similar to a traffic ticket. So he doesn't personally have to appear in court. His lawyer can go for him. But if he is convicted, he could face a year in jail, a $5,000 fine, 100 hours of community service, and attendance of a human trafficking dangers class. Interestingly, in a statement on Friday, when the nature of the charges was first announced, a spokesperson for Kraft said they, quote unquote, categorically deny that Mr. Kraft engaged in any illegal activity.
Oof. Man, tough look. Tough look for Robert Kraft. So I've got some thoughts right off the top just about like those last couple of things.
Yeah.
The biggest one is not the biggest one, but just one of them is, you said if convicted, Kraft could face a year in jail, $5,000 fine, 100 hours of community service, and attendance of the human trafficking dangers class. When this story first came out, like Friday or Thursday or so, like there was... I just, the first time I heard it, it was like in connection to this human trafficking thing. And I was like, holy fuck. Yeah. Later on, days later, now that we know a little bit more about the whole situation, like it's become clear that there's sort of 2 prongs to this police investigation in Palm Beach County. One of which is to really solve the big, much more serious problem of the human trafficking element that was happening in the ownership and running this fucking prostitution ring at this Orchids of Asia spa. So like that's prong number 1. That's why the police are there in the first place. Secondarily, they're like, holy fuck, one of the, Johns, so to speak, in this case is Robert fucking Kraft, the owner of the Patriots. And like they've actually said, like the spokesperson for the police have said that like they are like deliberately like airing this out publicly to draw attention to the case for the sake of drawing attention to human trafficking as a greater problem in our society and in the world. Obviously, the human trafficking part of this is like not funny in any way and is super serious.
No.
We're obviously going to be discussing the football side of things and the Patriots side of things, the Patriots fan side of things. And thankfully for Mr. Kraft, he, I don't think, is being implicated in any sort of any of the operational sides of this investigation. But like, obviously that's like super fucking real.
Oh, they're basically making an example out of him.
I mean, could you imagine, like, you work in if you're a Palm Beach County sheriff, if you're a cop down there, like, you're obviously no stranger to like high profile people. Obviously it's like a super rich area of the country where a lot of like old rich farts live. So like, I can't imagine it's like that surprising to like run into these people like on a day-to-day basis. But like, dude, this place was like in a strip mall between like an Outback Steakhouse and like a fucking like Bob's Discount Furniture or something.
Yeah, it wasn't
like,
high class.
This is not the place where you expect to run into billionaires getting freaking rub and tugs. So I can't imagine what that must have been like as they're like reviewing this footage and being like, holy shit. And that brings up the night before visit. So the night before thing, he goes there, does what he does. It's caught on camera. And then this actually wasn't in the ESPN thing that you just read, but it's important to point out the police were like, obviously like surveilling the area, and they see him go in and they see him come out, and they actually pulled him over under the auspice of some, I don't know, traffic violation or something. But like, the reason that they did it was to get a positive ID because they thought it was Robert Kraft, like the Robert Kraft. So they pull him over just to like, shine a flashlight on him and shit and just make sure it is who they think it is. And then he drives away, no harm done. And then he comes back the next day and does it all over again. So like, any claim from Robert Kraft that says like this wasn't him or mistaken identity or anything like that is just like nowhere near the realm of like possible, explanations.
Oh shit, I didn't hear that.
They
pulled him over to make sure that they were like not just a trick of the eyes. Like, did I just see who I think I just saw?
I mean, this is about as busted gets. Like, he got so busted. Like, it's actually insane how busted he is. Like, twice in a 24-hour period, both times on video, with an interaction with police in between, uniformed police. Like, dude, wow. Like, that is a busting, oh God, no pun intended. That is like you just got, man. Like, you got. Holy shit.
Yeah, I guess what tipped them off to this place is that they had, like, it's supposed to be a massage parlor, right? So like they had like nails and waxing as like services listed on the front windows.
Yeah, I've been seeing the pictures.
You would assume that would be something a woman would go to.
Yeah.
And yet they just kept seeing like men going in and out of the front door of the place. And they were like, something doesn't add up there.
Oh, you're saying that
like,
that's part of why they got like tipped off that something sketchy was going down?
That's why they started surveilling the place, because it was like, something's wrong here. Like, this doesn't check out that this is how their business would run and be sustainable. And so here we are. And then they pulled in the big fish. Interestingly, that it happened in over a month ago, and it's just coming out now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they kind of had to get their ducks in a row a little bit. I mean, I certainly don't know anything about like what the normal timelines are for this.
No.
So I have some questions for the panel here about what is going down beyond just like sussing through the facts of how it all went down. My biggest thing is, how do you feel about the fact that he's fighting it? At least so far, right? Like, he said, like, he hasn't actually said shit, but like, he had a spokesperson say that, what was the quote? He categorically denies that Mr. Kraft was engaged in any illegal activity. And, like we just mentioned, caught on video twice, talked to a cop in between, and is extremely famous and has, is easy to spot. So like, how do you feel generally about the fact that he's like fighting this so far?
I actually think the fighting it keeps the story going longer.
Go on.
Look, being picked up for solicitation is not the worst crime in the face of the world. Like, it's the world's oldest profession. It's been going on forever. So I say you just kind of like duck and cover basically. Like, it's going to happen. Let the story run its course. You plead out on the charge. You pay a fine, probably, at the end of the day. And, like, move on and hope that, you know, it gets kind of swept under the rug and it's forgotten about by the time the season starts. But by fighting it, it keeps the narrative going. And, like, they're about to head to the combine next week. We're going to have the draft soon. And, like, you're putting your coaches and players in a position to have to talk about it and answer questions.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with your assessment. And I'm so, like, freaking bamboozled by the fact that anybody could view it any other way. Like, to your point, being charged with solicitation of prostitution is at the worst thing that it is for Robert Kraft is horribly embarrassing. Terribly,
so embarrassing.
Horribly embarrassing to him personally, to the Patriots more generally, to other business endeavors that he has and he's affiliated with. Like, it's an incredibly, incredibly embarrassing story to have out there. That is the worst case scenario, and it has already occurred. Like, you are already, Mr. Kraft, living in the worst case scenario. Well, actually, I want to amend that for a second. It's not actually the worst case scenario yet, I don't think, but it's pretty goddamn close. And you're absolutely right that, like, did we learn not? What was he living under a rock during fucking Deflategate, where Tom Brady directs a couple of equipment guys to take a PSI and a half out of footballs, and for 2 years we had to fucking go into court, and the district court, then the federal court, then we're talking about having the implications of Donald Trump naming a Supreme Court justice affecting the outcome of Tom Brady. Like, that was such a debacle, and that was so poorly managed and so poorly handled by the Patriots overall. Like, the reason that it was as huge of a story as it was is because they didn't just say, you know what, Tom likes his balls a certain way. We actually weren't that aware of the rule. Apparently we were breaking it. Our bad. We won't do that anymore. Oh, by the way, we scored 40 points in the second half of the game with the properly inflated balls, because at halftime where you found the balls, it was 7-3. And the final score of that game was 45-7. So, like, how much of an impact were the balls really having? Had they said that, like, it wouldn't have gone away because people hate the Patriots and whatever, but, like, oh my God, like, did you not learn anything from that whole thing? Like, dude, there is only one response to this. That is, it was a lack of judgment. I feel terrible. I've embarrassed myself. I've embarrassed my family. I've embarrassed the organization. You know, I'm gonna, donate this much money to this thing. And, maybe you do one interview, like one televised interview with some friend of yours in the media. Like, it could be, I'm sure Robert Kraft has buddies, who would, like, softball a bunch of questions. He makes an appearance, and then it doesn't go away, like, forever. But for all intents and purposes, like, society, we move on to the next episode. Something else will drive the news next week, and we'll all focus on that instead. If he is even considering fighting this thing, that is so fucking stupid. I can't even wrap my head around it for a person that I would otherwise consider to be a very smart man.
Well, and it's funny because they're such a media savvy organization from the perspective of how they answer questions, how they don't engage in bulletin board material. And, like, they're so careful and strategic about that. And yet, you're right, when these scandals come up, they don't seem to be able to get out of their own way.
Well, they run the play, and the play is deny, accuse, and they just fight it to the death. And it's like, that doesn't work. Like, would you rather be Andy Pettitte or Roger Clemens? Both
great analogy.
Were accused of using steroids. One of them fought it all the way to the fucking Supreme Court, basically, and is known the world over as a steroid user. Oh, and by the way, he was found not guilty. And the other admitted to it within, like, a week of being accused of it. And does anybody consider Andy Pettitte, like, a horrible steroid guy? Is his name synonymous with the use of steroids themselves? No! Because he just said, you know what? I was doing it. Everybody was doing it. I feel bad. And you know what? Like, what can you do? Like, dude, the egg's already on your face. Like, it happened. And so to go back to the whole worst case scenario thing, there is one thing that could make this so much worse for Kraft and for the Patriots and for the whole situation. And I bet you can guess what it is.
Oh, if he knew about the trafficking.
Oh, well, that's one thing. Sure. I was going to go with the video.
Oh, I think the video's out.
Holy, if it's out, that's fucked. I don't know if, I mean, the video exists. Like, the video is known to exist. I mean, I certainly haven't heard anybody say that the video's out, and I've been kind of looking at this stuff all day. But, like, you know, like you and I were talking about this with the Kareem Hunt situation a few months ago, like,
oh, yeah.
and there was video footage of that, and we were comparing it to the Ray Rice thing, and, like, you know, I can hardly remember, like, what the Kareem Hunt video was at this point, months later. You know what I mean?
Oh, really?
Like, the Kareem Hunt, I'll never forget the Ray Rice video. But, like, if there is video of this going down, like, oh, my God. Like, that needs to be the number one priority of the Crafts overall. Like,
is to make sure that doesn't come out.
Is to make sure that video never sees the light of day. Never, ever, ever, ever can that video come out if you're Robert Kraft. Like, well, I would say to the Palm Beach Sheriff's Department, I would say you all will make twice as much through my private donation every year for the fucking rest of your lives if that video gets destroyed right now. Like,
how many new cop cars do you need?
I'm not. Yeah, I mean, I'm only like half kidding. Like, Robert Kraft needs to throw all of his political influence, financial influence, social capital. He needs to throw everything he has, not at proving his innocence, which he will never be able to do, but at making sure this video fucking never sees the light of day. That would be horrible. Horrible for him. That is the worst case scenario.
Yeah, I guess that would be pretty bad. I just have questions about who would want to even see that.
Oh, come on. We're sick. We're sick people. The American public, we're sick.
77 years old.
I know. That's why I would be so mad. That's why it would be so terrible, because it would be gross. I mean, it's already gross to think about it, to read about it. You had to use the term oral and manual sex on our sports podcast. That's horrifying. But, like, people would see the video. People would watch the video. That would be awful.
Ugh. All I can think about is that scene in Big Daddy where he realizes his ex-girlfriend's dating some old guy, and he's like, old balls. So old. It's just so old. And I'm like, oh God.
I mean,
all I can think about.
It's already very embarrassing, and the mind can construct a picture of what happens, I suppose. Whoa. But if we actually get video evidence, and you and I have discussed it, that, like, unfortunately in our, court of public opinion, like, when there is video of something, those tend to be the worst cases and the cases that stick in the American consciousness longer, if not the longest, like forever. Than any other story, no matter how horrifying it might be.
Well, it's another reason for him to just, like, admit it and take his lumps and move on, because by dragging it out, you're just asking people to keep looking and hunting for the video, because you're keeping the story in the forefront of everyone's mind by categorically denying something that everyone's laughing at you for denying. Like, no one's buying your denial, so I don't know who you're fooling except yourself at this point. And
you know what else is, I would think that if you fight it and you try to, like, take this to the mat on some, like, ticky-tack, like, well, Robert didn't solicit it. He just went in, they said he was going to give him one thing and they did another thing. And, he gave her a tip because he was going to give her a tip no matter what she did. I'm not, I'm not making that argument, but I can't even imagine what the legal, pretzel twisting you'd have to do to, like, get out of something like this would be. But if he takes this to the mat with the sheriff's department, with the police department, like, I would think that there's a very real chance that they say, you know what? Fuck this fucking guy. And we're going to release this video because he's trying to make us look like assholes. Like, yeah, watch out, pal, because here's what we got on you. Like, no, dude, you have got to fucking tuck tail and, like, mea culpa and it will go away. Like, it's just, oh my God, it's crazy to me that it seems so far that is not the course that they're going to take, or that he's going to take, I should say. It's just nuts. Like, dude, when you find yourself in a hole, like, the first thing you got to do is stop digging. like
Right.
You're making it worse. Like, oh,
Put the shovel down, dude. It's not, you're not helping yourself.
There's only
it's-
one move here. There's only one move. Oh God.
It's all gross. I guess the question here is like, so what is the league going to do? They've already released a couple statements. We know they're going to talk about conduct detrimental to the league. You think, what kind of penalties do you think they're going to face?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's not a whole lot of precedent for like owner transgressions.
Yeah, there's the Jim Irsay one. From a few years
Irsay
ago.
is probably the closest comp. He was like driving drunk and on pills and shit.
Yeah.
And I think they gave him 6 games. They suspended him as an owner, which was
6
odd.
games and $500,000
and some money,
which
for
is the
sure.
max fine.
Yeah, which is
nothing
pocket change
to
for
these
him.
guys. Right.
He probably ingested more than that much worth of fucking drugs that night.
Oh, yeah.
So there's that. There's also what's the Panthers guy's name? Jerry Richardson, who was like being super racist. So like he got pushed out. But obviously this is probably closer to the Irsay
totally
thing than it is
different.
to that. Truth be told, I don't think that they're gonna throw the book at Robert Kraft. Because you got to keep, and this is, I mean, a lot of people think, a lot of Patriots types think that like the league is out to get the Patriots at all times. So maybe there's a consensus out there that we're going to get like hammered with a punishment as Brady did, right? Like a punishment that was way disproportionate to the crime itself. But when you think about like who is like quote unquote like the NFL, like who is the body that would punish Robert Kraft? Like it's the other owners, and it's Roger Goodell representing those owners. And I just don't think that the other, 31 owners in the league, 30 owners in the league are super psyched about the fact that like something in his personal life, like outside of football, outside of anything, is like going down this way. Like, I don't think if I was like a super rich billionaire owner, like I would want the precedent to be set that if I do something outside of the boundaries of the law in my personal life, that it means that like, I have to sacrifice my ownership of the team or some crazy steep punishment like that. You know what I mean?
Right. Because where do you draw the line? Like, so what is allowed? So if I get a speeding ticket, like, are we there? Like, I have a DUI, especially because like domestic violence isn't enough to get you kicked out of the league. So why should this be enough for you to lose your team?
Right. Yeah. So I mean, I think because again, like the group of people that would be doling out the punishment in this case would be the other owners. Like, I don't think that he's going to get killed. I mean,
I think he's going to get a max fine
for sure.
I think he gets suspended because I think Roger Goodell is like, oh, well, I don't want people to think I'm, just protecting my buddy here, or that I'm trying to make it up to the Patriots because, there's been bad blood from us in the past.
Which that's a funny thing that's a funny element too, is that like the world thinks that like the NFL loves the Patriots and like rigs things to benefit the Patriots, and Patriots fans think the opposite. And we're obviously all watching the same shit transpire. Right.
That's true. Somehow we're all the victims.
Yeah. That's just a little hilarious part. I mean, I think both are wrong, but that's a topic for a different day. But yeah, I agree with you there. Like he'll definitely get the max fine. But even still, that's pocket change to him. And like, yeah, I mean the suspension thing. I mean, honestly, like if they suspend him for the first, let's say it's the first 4 games of the year, like,
okay,
but like, that's raising a Super Bowl banner at Gillette Stadium when Robert Kraft isn't there. Like that's tough. That's like a tough look,
That sucks for him, but like I don't know. Suspending the owner is like taking away someone's season tickets. Like it doesn't change what's happening on the field in any way, shape, or form. It seems like kind of a stupid punishment to levy against owners.
Right. I mean, do you think that do you think that they may or should do like draft picks or something like that? Like, should it be somebody that hurts the team? Yeah, I agree.
No.
I mean, I think they need to punish Robert Kraft. Like, this really
Right.
doesn't have anything to do with like the New England Patriots football organization.
Right.
In a refreshing change of pace from Patriots scandals of the past,
Yeah.
this has something to do with the Patriots football organization on the field.
Right. It has nothing to do with the people on the field. It has nothing to do with, the way they play the game or how they interact against NFL rules. It's a personal conduct penalty. And I guess the argument is that, well, you suspend players for games against the conduct policy, but like,
right, because they're getting game checks, like, which actually hurts them financially.
You're taking their money. Maybe you fine Robert Kraft and like maybe you give him community service to do or something.
Yeah.
Suspending an owner just seems weird to me.
Well, right.
Like,
but the only thing that they can do, like, there's nothing they could do monetarily that would hurt him. So all of the normal structures of punishment are just gone. So the only thing that you can really do is like public shaming. And if you're the NFL, like, what's the only way you can do that? It's like, well, we could ban him from his own party, so to speak, by suspending him for the first 4 or 5 games of the season, whatever. And he's not there when they raise their NFL leading 6th banner. Like that would be, I think, the punishment that would be. I think that's the most likely, and honestly, I feel like that's appropriate.
Yeah.
Like it's in the NFL, like CBA, where like the owners are supposedly held to a higher standard of conduct than the players, and like this is fucking gross, man. Like you should be punished for this.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Anyway.
So yeah, that's
What
the
a
Kraft
week.
stuff. I mean, I hope that we're not talking about this next week, because that would probably mean that he did the mea culpa that we're both rooting for. If we're still talking about it next week, I'd be horrified at the notion that we've both seen that video by then. I really hope we never do.
I'm not watching that.
If it's out, I'm going to force you to watch it. You have to watch
Well, I
it.
was going to say, I say that now, but I feel like if it came out, I'd be like, well, I might as well at least find out.
Plain old human curiosity.
All right. Well, there's that. Should we move into the lightning round?
Yeah, I want to take a shower first, but then we can move into the lightning round. All right, lightning round. Here we go. Let's keep it quick.
Okay. Well, we say that every week. We're 68 episodes in and we haven't done it yet.
Tired of getting dragged for the lack of lightning in the lightning round.
Put in a sound effect and you can tell them it's a lightning round just from the sound.
Just based on the sound.
So like we talked about in the open, Manny Machado, one of baseball's most polarizing power hitters, has finally signed a gigantic deal with the San Diego Padres. How much does it suck that he's going to an obscure team in an obscure market? And what does that say about Manny himself?
I don't think it says anything about Manny Machado that we didn't already know. He's kind of a putz and he's fucking kind of gutless.
Lazy.
Like he's literally admitted to as much himself.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have preferred him go to a bigger market team. I mean, I don't think he's going to be on the Padres for the rest of his career, because I don't think the Padres ever intend on actually paying him all $300 million of that. Like they'll trade him in a few years. But yeah, it's not great. I mean, I would have rather him be on a hateable team like the Dodgers or the Yankees, or just something that I'm going to see.
That's going to show up, like be a meaningful team in different ways.
Right.
Makes sense.
So that's a fucking bummer. All right, Bruins question.
Yeah.
You may not have known this, folks, but the Bruins have the 4th best record in the entire NHL right now. As a point of reference, they finished last season with the 5th best record in all of hockey. And as another reference point, the last 4 Stanley Cup champions have had the 6th, 2nd, 4th, and 7th best regular season records. So, Melissa, based on this, do you consider the Boston Bruins legit Stanley Cup contenders?
Based on that alone, I don't. I think they need to prove that they can get past Tampa Bay. And just based on how the teams are playing, like, I don't feel great about the Bruins' chances in a 7-game series against a team like that.
So you're taking the under on legit Cup contenders?
Yep. Taking the field.
All right, fair enough.
All right, second Bruins question. They traded for a couple of mid-tier forwards this week. Both guys are on the bigger side and have both been somewhat disappointing for their now former teams. They gave up a total of Ryan Donato, a second rounder, and a fourth rounder in the two trades for Charlie Coyle and Marcus Johansson. Thoughts on these deals? And are you going to miss old Ryan Donato?
Yeah, I mean, I said earlier, I do like these deals generally. Quick thought on the Ryan Donato thing. If Ryan Donato didn't have all of the, like, quote-unquote accolades that happened outside the Boston Bruins organization, like him being the son of Ted Donato, who's like a famous former Bruin, like him being from Situate, Mass, local kid, we obviously love that.
Yeah.
Like him playing in the USA or playing for the USA in the Olympics last year, if we remember that. Like all these things that made Ryan Donato like a household name, so to speak. None of them happened like in a Bruins uniform, and he really wasn't that good. He was small, he was undersized, he's got a great shot, but that's really it. So no, I'm not really going to miss Ryan Donato. If his name was like Brian Bobato, we wouldn't have cared. No one would give a shit that he's gone.
Right.
And
he did the weird thing where he kept going to classes.
Yeah, that was a cute
at
story
Harvard
too. He went to
signed.
Harvard, and like he's going to
your
school.
point,
like
it's all these cutesy stories we know about him.
Yeah.
You think you know him for his play on the ice. You don't.
No, exactly.
You know him for the media attention he's garnered for all these other things.
Which doesn't make him a bad guy. I'm not saying like I wanted them to gas him, but like his actual production on the ice in a Bruins sweater was barely existent. And also,
it wasn't a lot to give up.
It's worth pointing out this year that like the Bruins have had big time holes in secondary scoring. Like it's not as if he wasn't getting opportunities. Like I'm sure the Bruins would have loved to put him on the second line with David Krejci if he showed that he could like do that and perform at that level. And they obviously didn't. And so now he's gone. And then bigger thought about the trades overall. Like I don't claim to know anything about either of those two players, but they're big and they appear to have some talent. Marcus Johansson's best years came when he was playing alongside Alex Ovechkin and fucking Nick Backstrom, so like that doesn't surprise anybody. But
sure, okay.
I don't know. I mean, I think they got a little bit better, and I do think that they owe it to this team, who is better than we think. You know,
yes.
Again, like I said, fourth best record in hockey. Last year they had the fifth best record in hockey. Unfortunately, they play in the same division as like the fucking juggernaut Tampa Bay Lightning, who are far and away the best team in hockey. But you know, teams come out of the woodwork in the NHL and go far. It's not unheard of. So I like it overall. And Charlie Coyle's from here too. He's from Weymouth, so that's fun.
Fucking Bruins fans love hometown kids,
dude. It's nuts.
We love them. Homeboy's from Hull? He's gonna be fucking great. Okay,
take the
sign
ferry
him
to the garden.
Yeah.
All right. So Celtics.
Oh,
question.
you know him. He knows cousin Charlie. This is awesome. Yeah, he's so good. No, he's.
You got like people's like aunts and uncles calling into sports radio and shit. Like, oh god.
Yeah. Oh, he played hockey with my sister's best friend's son all the way in juniors. Nice kid. He's a nice kid.
Nice boy.
Okay. All right.
All right,
Mary,
Melissa, I have
relax.
a Celtics question for you.
Oh, great.
Similar to our Bruins question, the Celtics have the 8th best record in the NBA right now.
Ooh.
And for reference, the last 5 NBA champs have had no lower than the 3rd best regular season record. I think it's gone 1-1-3, 1-1-3, or 1-1-3, 1-1, or something like that. So based on that, do you consider your 8th best record in basketball, 5th seed in the Eastern Conference Celtics, legit NBA championship contenders?
No. I hate everybody.
Lightning sound effect.
Yeah. I will say that if you made me pick between the Bruins and the Celtics at this point, I would have taken the Bruins over the Celtics.
Wow. Would have, just for clarity, would have.
Which out of the two, which do I think has a better chance? The way things are going, like right now, I would have to give it to the Bruins. The Celtics are looking like they're going to play the first round on the road.
They might play the first 2 rounds on the road. Yeah.
Yeah. That's brutal.
Yep. Like, I like your answer. I like your conviction.
Yeah. So I'm not on board. I'm angry with the Celtics. In fact, I think they're playing like shit. And I think that their stars are making every excuse in the book and no one's just stepping up and being a leader of the team.
Speaking of which, next question.
Yeah. Okay. Great. After losing that shit game to Chicago on Saturday night, Celtics coach Brad Stevens said the following: I'm disappointed in myself, and I've got to do a lot better. Once the prohibitive favorites to win the Eastern Conference, the Celtics are back in the 5 seed where they've spent most of the season. How much blame, if any, do you put on Brad? And what did Celtics have to do in the playoffs to change the narrative for the 18-19 season?
I put probably more blame than most on Brad Stevens. I mean, I think in any sport, in any situation, if you have a team with tons of talent that is playing to a level that is less than the sum of its parts, you blame the coach. Like, it's just not that complicated. That's just what you do. Much like, and this has basically been Brad Stevens' whole career to date, when you have a team that is performing above the level that is commensurate with the sum of their parts, you praise the coach. So, like, we've been giving Brad Stevens all this credit for, like, getting the most out of all these players throughout his whole career, in a Celtics, for the Celtics and otherwise. But now he's somehow not to blame when the opposite happens. So, no, I definitely blame Brad Stevens for a lot of it. As far as the playoff thing goes, I mean, this is like the 18-19 Patriots, right? Like, weird regular season, a lot of ups, a lot of downs. Like, we thought they might have been out of it at a certain point, and next thing you know, they win the Super Bowl. And I would say the same has to be true for the Celtics. Like, I don't think they have to win it all to make up for a weird regular season, but I think the only thing that changes the narrative is making the finals. Like, you got to get back to that preseason expectation based on the roster, based on the talent, and assuming health. You got to make an NBA Finals, or else this is going to be looked at as a weird year and possibly a lost season.
Yeah, I think they at least have to get back there, right? Like, they have to do what we anticipated them doing in order to kind of save face on this one.
Yeah.
I think what's a little different about the NBA and, like, where Brad Stevens is getting some shielding is that it is such a superstar driven league that, like, the blame does tend to fall on the superstar when things are going wrong. And, like, similar to Robert Kraft, talk about not being able to get out of your own fucking way. Like, just shut up. Like, shut up and play basketball and just stop talking to people. Like, he seems confused about the questions that are being asked and doesn't Kyrie, I mean, obviously, and doesn't understand.
Kyrie.
I'm
okay.
sorry.
Yeah. No, I
Kyrie
get you. I get you.
Confused about all the questions that he's being asked and doesn't understand how his own comments are, like, contributing to this narrative about, is Kyrie unhappy? Can he manage the young kids? Can he handle a team on his own? And then he gets, like, angry when he gets asked about.
Yeah, and his comments after the Chicago game were literally like, it doesn't matter. We're going to be fine in the playoffs, which is like, oh,
because I'm here.
This is the guy who is, like, getting on the young guys for, like, not being professionals and not taking games seriously and, like, thinking that they're just going to show up and, like, dominate. Like, that's your comment? Like, oh, this game literally doesn't matter? Like, all right, LeBron. Fucking didn't know it was like that. So, yeah, I mean, I don't mean to make it sound like I blame all of their struggles on Brad Stevens, but I certainly do put a lot of it, like I said, probably more than most. So there's that.
You want it to be Brad's fault, we know. Anyway.
All right, here's a fun one to end the night.
Yeah, we are both going to answer this one.
Yeah. So, grand finale questions. Melissa, I want to hear your power rankings of all the New England Patriots scandals from worst for the team to least bad for the team. Our 5 finalists are Patriots tight end Aaron Hernandez being convicted of homicide. Number 2, and these are in no particular order. Filming opposing sidelines at Bill Belichick's direction, the scandal that we know mostly as Spygate. Letting 1.5 pounds per square inch of air from footballs at Tom Brady's direction in the 2014 AFC Championship game, or as we know it, Deflategate. Julian Edelman getting suspended for PEDs, or Robert Kraft getting charged with solicitation of prostitution. Give me those 1 through 5. Least to worst.
This is what I think had the biggest, like, team impact, right?
Sure.
Like, in the history books, what will go down as the worst?
Yes.
Okay. I think the worst one for the team was Deflategate. I think the second one is Spygate. I think Aaron Hernandez is third. Then Robert Kraft, and Julian Edelman is the least bad for the team.
So Edelman's the least bad. Kraft
Yeah.
is the second to least bad, you think,
Yeah.
when we look back on this moment in
the
history,
scheme
he'll
of
be
things,
down there.
Yeah.
And then you've got Hernandez, then Spygate, then Deflategate at the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a similar list. I think you could organize this list actually just in order of fame of the person in question. Like,
Yeah.
I actually think, well, actually, maybe that's not so true. I don't know. My list goes Edelman's at the bottom because who doesn't get conference steroids?
Yeah, right.
Big deal.
Yeah, 4 games for PEDs is nothing.
Yeah, Hernandez is second from the bottom because I don't think that whole thing really hurt the Patriots' image.
I agree. That's why I put it third, because I feel like the Patriots, of all the scandals, did the best job managing that one so that they took none of the fall.
Right.
Even though if you've listened to that Gladiator series,
They might have
they
deserved
may have
some of it.
deserved a little bit more of it. But anywho.
Right. So yeah, I've got Edelman at the bottom, Hernandez on top of that. I'm going to put Kraft right in the middle. I think that's where it's going to settle in at the end of the day. And then I actually have Deflategate in the 2 hole and Spygate number 1 because I mean Spygate was.
Oh really?
I mean it's sort of like it's like the 01 championship of Patriot scandals. It's like you never forget your first. It's like the one that started the rest of the it's without Spygate. I'm not even so sure any of that other shit even happens. To be totally frank. And like that's the one that branded the Patriots with the cheating reputation in the first place, which a lot of this other stuff just feeds into that narrative. Like Spygate created that narrative.
Yeah, I guess I put the Deflategate first because it went on for so long.
Yeah, I mean,
because
it's close up there. It's 1A and 1B for sure.
Yeah, right. It's definitely those two at the end of the day that are going to be the biggest scandals that people remember when they talk about the evil Patriots of this dynasty. Like those will be the 2 knocks against them.
That's a good point too. Like it's 1 and it's 2, whatever order you have them is whatever. And then there's a big gap, and then there's 3, 4, 5. No doubt about that.
Right.
Although I don't know, if Robert Kraft fights this thing, I think he could find himself right up there with his buddies. So if that's something that he wants to do, then God bless him.
Yeah, if he handles this shitty, he 100% could end up. He could move well above the Aaron Hernandez thing in my mind.
Good God.
If that happens.
All right. Well, folks, if you want to weigh in on any of this news, you certainly can do so.
Rank the 5 for us. Tell us what you think.
Yeah, you can do that online if you're into that sort of thing. Everywhere that social media is found pretty much at Titletown Pod.
You can call us and leave a voicemail at 904-87-TT-POD. Share your thoughts. Let us know what you think. Talk to us about the Bruins trades, what you think of the Celtics, what you think of RKK, any of that good stuff.
Yeah, and we can all hope that we move on to the next episode next week because I do not want to talk about this again.
Next week, only sports.
Please. Crossing our fingers.
I promise to never use the phrases oral and manual sex on this podcast again.
I'm going to hold you to that, Melissa. I'm going to hold you to that.
Great. Okay. I'll just make you say it if this comes up again. Okay.
All right. We will talk to you next week.
Bye.